would never, ever think differently. Because first of all, Michael told me that they were going to him. He was afraid. He was afraid for his life. The people that were involved in his life, the people that were controlling him.
If people actually knew Michael Jackson's childhood after they were signed to Motown,
I'm just
a whole lot of questions about why he was the man that he was.
How is he today?
He's fine. I think he's a family man now. I don't see much of him, but my daughter does.
If there is one person who didn't find so much success as a singer, but later thrived in revealing unknown truths about the music industry, then it has to be Jaguar Wright, from giving damning revelations about Jay-Z, Diddy, and Clive Davis, among others. The veteran singer's axe has officially landed on legendary music producer and composer Quincy Jones. Any music fan will tell you that no mention of Quincy Jones can be made without naming arguably the greatest musician ever, the late king of pop, Michael Jackson. According to Wright, Quincy played a big role in Michael Jackson's death.
That Murray is simply the fall guy. This was definitely something that was premeditated, that they had planned to do, and they planned to take my brother out.
And going by what Quincy has been saying about the late singer, it's hard to dispute Wright's stand. The legendary record producer met Michael Jackson when the singer was just 12 years old, spawning a fruitful collaboration that included Jackson's first solo album, Off the Wall, the best-selling album of all time, 1982's Thriller, and 1987's Bad. However, according to the Los Angeles Times, the two sadly cut ties at the end of the 80s because Jackson felt the producer was old and out of touch after MJ's death and the release of the posthumous album. And this is it. In 2009, Quincy sued Jackson's estate for improperly using his work, winning a $4 million judgment in a bombshell 2018 interview with Vulture. After the decision, which was later partially overturned, Quincy made some surprising claims about his one-time collaborator, calling Michael a Machiavellian and greedy thief who stole some of his most successful songs. So did his reason prompt him to take out the legendary singer?
Moment. This is it. It's an adventure. It's a great adventure.
Responding to Vulture's David Murray's first question, what's something people don't understand about Jackson? Quincy didn't words. I hate to get into this publicly, but Michael stole a lot of stuff. He stole a lot of songs. The producer claimed among the allegedly pilfered beats he named was Billie Jean, which the producer said came from Donna Summer's 1982 song State of Independence. Originally recorded by John Evangelist's State of Independence, songwriter John Anderson claimed to Louder Than Sound that Quincy, who produced Billie Jean, and admitted to stealing a guitar riff from the album on which the song Summer would make famous, first appeared. The notes don't lie, man. Quincy told Vulture Jackson was as Machiavellian as they come. Greedy man, greedy. The Grammy-winning producer also criticized a section of Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, written by keyboardist Greg Filling. Gaines, Michael should have given him 10% of the song, the producer said. As it turns out, Quincy isn't the only one to suggest that Michael had borrowed from other artists. In 1994, the pop star successfully defended himself against accusations that he stole parts of Thriller, The Girl Is Mine, and We Are the World. According to the Los Angeles Times, in 2001, an Italian court overturned an earlier decision that the singer had infringed on part of Italian songwriter Albano K. I Signi di Balaca for the 1993 single Will You Be There. According to ABC News, according to the international legal site Lexology, a Belgian court also determined in 2007 that 1995's You Are Not Alone, written by R. Kelly and performed by Michael Jackson, was plagiarized from composers Eddie and Danny Van El. As a result, the song has been banned from commercial broadcast in Belgium. Outside of the courtroom, Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates said in 2022 that Michael once apologized for stealing from the duo's song I Can't Go for That No Can Do for Billie Jean, according to Express UK. And that line, Ma'am Say Mama Mamusa from Thriller's Want to Be Starting Something. The singer settled out of court in 1986 for lifting it from late Cameroonian musician Manu Dibango, per Variety. Moving on from the plagiarism claims, Quincy took another stab at the king of pop in Vulture, suggesting he used excuses of an illness as a cover for an addiction to cosmetic surgery triggered by years of physical and emotional abuse in the singer's childhood. He had a problem with his looks because his father told him he was ugly, abused him. The producer claimed Michael's alleged abuser, his father Joe Jackson, who died in June 2018, responded to statements questioning his son's legacy by calling Quincy jealous of his son's talent. He also pointed the finger at any plagiarism at Quincy for producing the songs. He says, my son stole it, but he was the producer on both Billie Jean and State of Independence, so if anybody is wrong, it would be Quincy. The elder Jackson said per AP News. He, however, did not comment on the assertion that he had abused his child.
Anybody that says they know they're going to sell 104 million albums or whatever it was are lying. You don't do that. You make something that you love.
In the same interview, a second unnamed family member suggested that Quincy was still bitter because Michael had lobbied against the producer getting a Grammy for the Thriller album in 1982. Michael did all of the work. The source said it's his music, and everyone knows Michael's sound, and Thriller was all Michael Jackson. Michael wasn't the only music legend Quincy spilled tea about in the interview, opening that rock music was just a white version of rhythm and blues. The producer recalled that his first impression of the early years Beatles was that they were the worst musicians in the world. They were no playing B. He went on, Paul McCartney was the worst bass player I ever heard, and Ringo Starr don't even talk about it. Quincy then recounted an equally unflattering anecdote about bringing in jazz drummer Ronnie Verl to fix a track Starr had spent hours trying to get right. Nearly 40 years after its release, Michael Jackson's Bad continues to be debated among music critics and fans of the King of Pop. By any measure, it stands as one of the most successful pop music recordings of the modern era, yet Bad has long lived in the shadow of its predecessor Thriller, the best-selling album of all time. And Michael's creative and commercial peak made the stakes for Bad impossibly high. MJ had to sustain the pop idol hysteria unleashed by Thriller and prove the album's success was no fluke. Bad had to put to rest any questions about the singer's artistic bona fides as a songwriter and solo artist. Michael also had to restore his image following the Jackson's problem-plagued Victory Tour. With so much writing on the album, every choice made regarding Bad carried the weight of a nuclear strike. The release of Bad 25 in 2012 provided listeners with an opportunity to examine Bad in terms of what was left of the album. From that vantage point, it's clear that while Bad is unquestionably the product of Michael's creative genius, much of the credit for shaping it into the solid album it became goes to Quincy Jones, master producer, whose golden ears harnessed the singer's instincts into hits. A lot of people misunderstand me. It's because they don't know me experience the untold story of the legendary album that changed music history with never-before-seen footage. With the Victory Tour completed in December 1984, Michael spent early 1985 cleaning up at the Grammys, co-creating We Are the World, and filming Disney's Captain. Afterward, the legendary singer headed to the Laboratory, his home studio at Havenhurst in Encino, California. There he wrote and recorded demos with producer Bill Bottrell and arranger John Barnes, giving him a measure of artistic control over the work he had long desired. He wrote 62 songs and recorded dozens of demos through 1986, and at one point envisioned Bad as a triple album. At the same time, there was a tremendous amount of pressure from Epic and CBS and the whole entertainment industry for Michael to get on with following up the aging Thriller album. MJ also placed a great deal of pressure on himself. His stated goal written on his bathroom mirror was to sell 100 million copies of the album. Reaching that goal required hits, and that's where Quincy Jones came in. Quincy's judicious song selection, sequencing, and unifying touch were essential in achieving Michael's creative and commercial vision. For Bad, Michael sent me a note. Could you please take off the violence in the introduction? Though it's messed up my groove. You know what that line was. By August 1986. The singer was sending demos over to Quincy at Westlake Audio in Los Angeles for review, re-recording, and overdub sessions with Michael at Westlake. Got serious in January 1987. When you get a song you feel you like, you put it down with a rhythm section to get it on its feet, and then you hear Michael sing a couple of takes on it, maybe with a couple of background lines to see how it holds up so you can see what it might be and you're not just wasting your time. Quincy told Mix in 2007 the award-winning composer focused on quality instead of quantity and convinced Michael to abandon the triple album concept. Every album has extra songs that didn't make it to the album. There's a little bit of advice I like to use all the time on an album. We went through 800 songs to get to Thriller, and we ended up with 9. Finally, they must have been very impressive to us, Quincy told Music Week in 2010. When you get to 9, the producer has to in his mind pick and be very honest and say these 4 in relation to the 9 are the weakest of the entire 9. It takes a lot of truth to do that. You have to bury the ego. Demos on Bad 25 like Don't Be Messing Around and I'm So Blue illustrate Quincy's point. Don't Be Messing Around has a light, bouncy beat that recalls both Dancing in the Streets and Thriller. Want to be starting something, but doesn't have the buoyancy of Bad's. The Way You Make Me Feel song Grove aka Abortion Papers could have been a sequel to Billie Jean, but its controversial subject matter can't substitute for the haunting tone of its predecessor and makes Dirty Diana a stronger choice.